Hi, Sadaf. Melissa's here. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Hibba, Circle Ambassador. I cordially welcome you all in today's workshop about branding and storytelling by Mellisa Sassi. Before introducing the trainer, let me first introduce Circle and its initiatives to you all. Circle's Pakistan mission is to advance women's economic participation and improvement through workshops, innovative entrepreneurship and leadership labs, advocacy, research, and campaigns. Uh, Circle's initiative includes TechCaro, that gives courses that provide courses to the students about digital web development, and She Loves Tech. Second one is She Loves Tech, and third is Elevate. This year Circle's ambitious goal is to reach out 10,000 women and girls under SLT through the Pakistan with the collaboration of Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom, Habib Bank Limited, and UNDP. It is necessary to invest in youth, especially in women, to build confidence, capacity, and create platforms for them. This workshop, branding and storytelling, is supported by Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom, which aims to contribute of soft skills in the field of business, communication, and responsible citizenship. Now introduce our let me introduce now our trainer. She is Mellisa Sassi. She is founder and CEO of Mentor Nations, a youth lead digital skills movement. She is chair of IEEE's Digital Intelligence Initiative and founder member of Coalition for Digital Intelligence with IEEE, DQ, WEF, and OECD institutes. She holds board position with TechMill and Tech Women Afghanistan to enhance the skills in women. She has given more than 100 UN events, several conferences, that is educational and technical conferences, as a keynote speaker. Let us welcome Mellisa Sassi. Thank you for joining us, Mellisa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. I took my background off because it was making my shirt fly off into nowhere. So I hope that's okay. My name is Mellisa Sassi, and I'll first introduce myself. Give me 1 second. I just need to wipe off my my camera because it's showing a little bit fuzzy. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay. So let me introduce myself. I will tell you a few different things about me. So I work at IBM. That's my day job. And I have actually been to Pakistan 3 times. I haven't made it out into the countryside yet. I look forward to traveling to rural areas. I've been to Karachi and Lahore all 3 times, but hopefully, inshallah, I will get out to the rural areas. At IBM, I run a startup program. So I have 45 startups in my portfolio, and 3 of my startups, even though they're registered in different places, the founders are from Pakistan, and many of their team members are from Pakistan. I've done a lot of talks with people in Pakistan and also in Pakistan, as you learned. I'm very connected into the startup ecosystem in Pakistan, and I believe in the wonderful opportunities that Pakistan has to bring when it comes to the startup ecosystem. And I also believe that there are many opportunities for women to be part of the fun of being a founder. I say it's fun, but it's also very hard. In addition to running the entrepreneur experience for my division globally at IBM, I also am responsible for student experience. So that means how do we empower young people with the skills that they need to be prepared for the future of work? And we know that tech skills is a big piece of that. But I also focus on entrepreneurial thinking and personal or professional development. We're going to hear from you're going to hear from me about some of the things that are very near and dear to me in terms of what has helped me succeed in my life. And we will also talk about if you have questions. We will also talk about some of the things that maybe you have questions about. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to use the comments. I think it's a lot more fun when we have a presentation and you join me in the presentation versus just listening. Okay. At IBM, I also wear another hat. I am a judge in a competition that's called Call for Code. And Call for Code is an initiative that is all about fighting back against the world's wickedest challenges. And what I mean by that is using technology or data science to create solutions that impact climate action, um, disaster scenarios, racial injustice, all of the many things that we see highlighted in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So the goals that have been set forth to help us make the world a better place and end poverty. I am both an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur. For those of you who don't know the word entrepreneurship, it is when you innovate inside of someone else's company instead of just your own. So I'm both an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur. I have my own nonprofit. We've taught tens of thousands of young people to code in 12 countries. We have a co-working space, a robotics lab, and an IoT lab in North Africa. And we also have 2 tech startups, both ed tech. One is about badges and certifications for working professionals or young people who are trying to figure out still what their next career is going to be. It hasn't launched yet, but it will be launching soon, which I'm really excited about. I also have an ed tech platform that's a gamified, fun solution for being prepared for the future of work. It's not ready yet, but it will be soon. So those are a few things about the activities that I do inside of IBM, as well as outside. I worked at Microsoft for a number of years, and I built internet and energy access solutions. I was an impact investor, focused on the building blocks that we all need: internet, energy, to make meaningful use of the internet. So today, I'm going to share with you 2 different things. One is going to be personal branding, and the second is going to be imposter syndrome. So I'm going to start off with personal branding. Let me just share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to turn on the chat window so I can see. Can one of you let me know whether you can see it or not? I want to make sure that it's showing personal branding.
It's perfectly visible. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna move this down a little bit. Sometimes my camera gets all out of whack. Okay, good. So this talk was really inspired by 3 of my colleagues and friends. One of them is Dux Raymond Tsai, who is a chief marketing officer and also technical himself. He used to not be good at presenting or public speaking, and he was terrified. And through practice now, he is one of the best speakers that I ever see at any conference. He's amazing. And once he was pulled into a meeting by one of his bosses, and he made them lose the deal because he wasn't able to carry himself. He's since learned that, and now he's got one of the best personal brands out there that I know. Donna Sakar, who is both an engineer and an entrepreneur. She's an engineer at Microsoft, and then she has her own fashion line. She's an absolutely amazing woman. She also has dyslexia and openly speaks about disabilities and how we all have different abilities, and how you can have different abilities and still be a boss, and she is absolutely a boss. And then Mary Rodriguez, she's a master storyteller. She runs the internship program at Microsoft. She's incredibly inspiring and just someone who I admire greatly. So all 3 of them have amazingly wonderful brands. For those of you on Twitter, you can easily find them. If we have a few minutes, I'll give you their Twitter handles because they're really wonderful to follow on Twitter. What we're going to talk about today is how to navigate your own narrative in 5 easy steps. And this is really about telling your own story, crafting your own narrative. If you're on Twitter, you can find me there. I'm going to put my my Twitter handle in the window. Oh, I missed the letter. Hold on. There we go. That's the correct one. You can see it on the screen there. All right, perfect. So let's jump in. So first off, I want to thank Sadaf and everyone from She Loves Tech Pakistan, including HBL and all of the sponsors that have enabled you to be part of this program, for me to be part of this program. I believe in the work that Sadaf and her team is doing, not only because I'm a proponent of gender equality and also opportunities, but also tech. So it's, brings a lot of my passions together. And as I mentioned, I was in Pakistan 3 times last year, and everyone went out of their way to make me feel welcome, to make me feel at home. And I do feel like when I come to Pakistan that I'm coming home. So thank you for being so hospitable. I think they always, everyone always talks about the hospitality and the kindness of Pakistanis when you go when you go visit. And I heard about this, but I really experienced it, first, like with my own eyes, and it's hard to put into words. So whatever it is that makes Pakistani people so hospitable, keep doing what you're doing, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions in the world about what it means to travel to Pakistan. What are the Pakistani people all about? And I think for me, I always try to, change the narrative that many people have about many parts of the world. Through travel, through culture, through food, through my own travels, so that I can, in a way, be a good ally and dispel, any myths that people have about what it means to travel to other countries, different than our own, different than mine. So thank you. And I'm not going to tell you which biryani I like the best, because I always end up finding that I create a fight somewhere. I might tell you at the end when I'm getting ready to leave. I think Sadaf already knows. All right, cool. So essentially, if you follow these 5 steps, this will enable you to really create your own personal brand and control how others see you and describe you when you're not in the room. So who doesn't want to control what other people say about you when you're not in the room? We do, right? We want to know what other people are saying, and we want to control that, right? We don't want people using a narrative that's different than what we want. So step 1 is really to find your superpower. I would like to know in the chat, does anybody know what their superpower is? Do you have a superpower? I mean, we all have superpowers. We may not know what they are, but if you feel comfortable sharing, I'd love to know what your superpower is, or what is that thing that you're known for? What do people know you for? I'd like you to take a few minutes, and I'd like you to go to your phone or your computer or your tablet, and I'd like you to Google your first and last name. I hope you're doing that, because I'm going to pause for a minute while you do that. Did anybody find anything interesting? Or did you even find yourself? I bet some of you didn't find yourself, huh? Now I want you to Google me. So I'll put my first and last name in here. I hope you're doing it and following along. Tell me you are. Tell me you are in the comments, so I know that I'm not just sitting here looking silly. So hopefully you Googled yourself, and maybe you found some stuff, maybe you didn't. But when you Googled me, you found a lot of stuff, right? Yeah. And if you look at what you found about me, you found, hopefully this is what you think when you see that, is you see, yeah, so some people didn't find themselves. That's normal. That means you haven't established your personal brand, okay? And personal brands are both online and offline. Some of you found a lot of stuff, but is it what you want to be there? Is it what you want to see? You know, can somebody look at that and say, oh, that person is known for this, this, and this? You know, for me, you'll know that I know I'm everywhere on Google. Yeah, you know that you'll find things about digital inclusion. You'll find things about startups, and you'll find things about inclusion. So inclusion of women and girls, right? Because I work on it, and I work on it very hard. And one of the ways I work on it is by doing talks, writing blogs, just taking part in stuff, you know, volunteering. Most of everything came through volunteering. So the first step is really figuring out, you know, what are you known for? You know, or what is that one thing that you want to be known for? You know, maybe people don't know you for it, but it's something that you'd like to be known for. Now, be realistic. You know, if you're not a rock star right now, the chances of you, and you don't know how to sing, the chances are, you know, people are not going to start recognizing you as a rock star if you don't know how to sing. So think about, or play a guitar or something crazy like that. You know, so know yourself, think about what your strengths are or what your strength is. But be authentic, you know, be yourself. Because how many people have we met, you know, where you feel like they've got this barrier up and, you know, there's just something about them, right? You know, we don't always enjoy being around people where we feel like, I don't know, that person's got something going on. They're not transparent. I've worked with people who you feel like they've got a shell around them, and they're not, and you feel like they have this persona that they create at work, and you know they're different outside of work. You know people like that? I do. It always makes you feel kind of weird, right? Like, okay, wait a second, when I see you here, you're like this, when I see you there, you're like that. Like, what's going on? You know? So be you. Be you. So, you know, always know your audience. You know, think about who's listening. You know, the way that I might talk about a certain topic in Facebook with my friends, my family, might be a little bit different than how I talk in Instagram or how I tweet. You know, my friend Donna, she uses Facebook only for her family and talks about her trips and stuff like that. And Instagram, it's mostly her fashion. And in Twitter, it's either a combination of fashion or tech. You know, she knows her audience and she crafts her messages accordingly. You know, we know that we don't always apply the same language, you know, everywhere we go. So for example, when I talk in LinkedIn, I'm a little bit more formal in LinkedIn than I am in Twitter. But either way, speak. And when I say speak, that means both online and offline. And that could be, you know, writing a blog, that could be, and meaningful stuff. We'll talk about that in a bit. But be authentic. You know, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. You know, tell relevant stories. Share and write. You know, always act with empathy, though. Be prepared to teach and inspire others. But either way, just be. You know. So I'll tell you in a bit why I do the work I do, and it'll be a vulnerable story. It'll give you insight into why I do what I do, why I show up the way I show up, and also why I work so much, because a lot of people ask me, oh my gosh, you're always working. You'll understand why. Everybody's got why. So step 3 is be there, be consistent, and just show up. You know, I once participated in this coloring contest, and I was like 3rd grade, you know, so I was like a small little kid. And I had to color this bunny rabbit, and it was for like a holiday in the US. And so I colored this bunny, and I turned the bunny in to the store to win the prize. and I won the prize. I won $50, which in my town at that time, $50 was a lot for me, you know. Obviously things change, and maybe $50 for a young kid in Pakistan is also a lot, but it was a lot for me, and I was so excited. And I went to the store, I spent the money, and I got candies and games and all kinds of stuff. And I asked them, like, how many entered the coloring contest? And the lady told me, you were the only one who entered. So sometimes you can actually be a superstar by being the only one who shows up. You know, I'm not a great colorer, I'm not a great artist, but I won that $50 because nobody showed up. You know, and so that happens a lot of times. You know, I often find that when you volunteer to do things, it also helps to build your personal brand because it helps to show you as a leader. And you can write about all of that stuff, you know, and it's easy now to write. You know, you've got opportunities in LinkedIn, you've got opportunities in Medium. You know, there's so many different places where you can write and share. You know, one example of something that you could do is after this session, right? What did I learn about personal branding, and what is my commitment to building my personal brand? Take part in social media. Now, I know a lot of people ask about, you know, what about cyberbullying? You know, it's real. And I do have trolls and haters and people who come and say nasty things or rude things. It's something that does happen, but I think know how to deal with that, and that's don't engage, block. There's no sense in engaging. Anytime I have someone who says something nasty or something inappropriate, I block them and I move on. But take part in events like this, you know, programs like this. Be present. You know, write about each and every workshop that you have, write about it. Say some words about it. What did you learn? How are you going to go and apply those things later? Are there some things that you can share with others that you learned that they may not have had access to before that can help them be a better person? Maybe. But be useful. You know, I don't know how many of you have your own website. Do any of you have your own website? I have my own website. I have a million websites, a million URLs actually, but I need to do a better job. I need to do a better job using all of them. I have one for melisasassi.org, but I haven't done anything with it yet. It's my plan. I plan to do something with it. But create your own website. You know, this is a great way, like if you're thinking about your CV and how do you want to build your CV, this is a great way of demonstrating your experience. You know, what a better way for people to see who you are, what you know, what you've done in a way that, you know, kind of brings it to life, you know, in color, and you put it on your CV. And it allows you to control your own, it allows you to control it. You know, sometimes I write a lot under IBM, but I also write things elsewhere because I know that when I write in the world of IBM, it's something that's posted in IBM, and IBM can do anything they want to with it, you know, and then all of a sudden my brand is gone, right? But either way, build your brand. And that doesn't just mean online, it's offline as well. It's making sure that your online persona matches your offline persona. Identify your industry peers. You know, look around the people who are with you in this talk. You know, those are your peers. You know, engage with them. You know, set goals to expand your network and actually do it. Like, how many times do we go, even if it's a virtual conference, you know, or think about when we were all going to conferences, we meet people, or you meet somebody new, maybe not at a conference or a summit or something professional. You know, you meet someone new and you just don't follow up. You know, be proactive, you know, set a goal of meeting X number of new people. Maybe it's just one new person a month. You know, not all of us feel comfortable, you know, meeting new people, right? And not everybody feels very comfortable, you know, kind of speaking out and meeting new people. It's hard for some of us. For me, it's not hard for me. It's something I thrive on, but I do empathize, with people who are, more reserved or might feel less comfortable in certain settings. But make a point to come out of your comfort shell, even if it's just once a month. It can be contagious. Be prepared to learn from others and share what you learn. This again goes back to blogging and videos and figuring out how you can share your skills forward. Most importantly, when it comes to building your personal brand, be a friend. Be there when people need you. And it's hard to be everywhere, And I'm not saying that means, donating money to every single person who asks you to help them. Lending a hand can come in many, many different ways. I have a lot of people who ask me for donations, and I don't donate to everybody. I can't, even if I wanted to, And so I've learned, how can I lend a helping hand, but how can I balance that with what I can and cannot do? I get a lot of questions from a lot of people, and some of them just are not meant for me to answer, and sometimes I'm like, you know what, I don't think I'm the right person to answer this, but here's a place you can go to maybe get more information, especially with young people who, might be still trying to find their way. So one of the questions is, how was your experience in IBM while working a job, being an intrapreneur and an entrepreneur? I was very upfront with them. And I know that in some parts of the world, and I suspect Pakistan is one of them based on some of the conversations I've had, that it's really hard for employers to see that it's okay for you to be an intrapreneur and an entrepreneur. And sometimes they look for you to, sign agreements that you won't compete. I just personally don't believe in that. I think I should be able to work and do, as long as there's no conflicts and as long as I'm not hurting anyone. I should be able to have my own company, have my own side hustles, and also be a good employee. And I'm thankful that coming into IBM, I've made that very, very, very clear. I'm an intrapreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. Don't ask me to leave my side endeavors because I won't do it, And it's taken a while, in my life to get to that point where I feel comfortable saying that. And I think part of that is I've built my personal brand. I know what my superpowers are, and other people know that I have a personal brand. Other people know that I've created my superpower and I have my things. Now they see it as a value instead of a distraction. But build unique emotional connections. I always try to emotionally connect with others. That requires emotional intelligence. How do you know yourself? How do you know others? How do you read yourself? How do you read others? How do you create better relationships by managing yourself and those around you? But empower others to share their story. Ask them, what is it that brought you here today? So I'll ask you if you feel comfortable. What brought you to Circle Women? What brought you to She Loves Tech Pakistan? Why are you here? Does anybody want to share? It's okay if you don't. All right. But, as you're empowering people, think about empowering them with empathy. Like what connects the two of you together? What connects you to that group? What is it that connects that group to you? What is it that you can do to make others shine? But ultimately, emotionally connect. I always encourage others to be authentic, to be themselves, and it's contagious. The kinds of things people open up to me about sometimes is crazy, where I'm like, oh, I can't believe they told me that. But, I think part of that is because no matter how successful I may be in my career and in my life, and not everything is success, not everything is great, that's for sure. I'm approachable, and I enable others to be vulnerable around me, to be authentic. And you can be vulnerable and powerful at the same time. Sometimes showing your vulnerability in the right way can actually be powerful. And you'll see that in a second. So now we're going to talk about how I turned my personal brand into something. And I followed these steps. So first off, I turned my worst nightmare into my superpower. So I'm going to show you my vulnerability. My vulnerability is that 13 years ago, my children and I became victims of parental kidnapping. So my children were taken from me 13 years ago, and I never got them back. Now, I know where they are. They're healthy, they're safe, they're normal children, but I was not able to get them out of the country where my ex-husband took them, his home country. Tunis, Tunisia. So sandwiched in between Algeria and Libya and North Africa. And when I wasn't able to get them back for a variety of reasons, mostly bureaucracy, red tape, and corruption, I decided I would play the long game. And what I mean by that is I would show my kids that I love them. I would be a mother from afar. I would come and visit them when I could. I would teach myself to speak their dialect. So I speak Arabic, but a North African version of Arabic. And I taught myself by hanging out with people who spoke the dialect, because this dialect is not a written dialect. And it's not a dialect you can go to school and learn. It's very different than many of the dialects that exist in the Arabic language. I started a company in his country. And what started all of that? Actually, I started 3 companies in his country. What started all of this was really one day my daughter saying to me, Mommy, I'm learning Microsoft. And at the time I was working at Microsoft. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. You know, what are you learning? And I realized she was learning Word in her classroom without access to a computer. Just there's like a clunky old one that the kids would go up and, you know, file, type, you know, learning. And I thought, how can these young people, and they only had one for like 40 kids. And this is, you know, you all live in Pakistan. You see many, many young people without access to technology. And you also see many young people outside of the school system, even without COVID-19, yeah? So you know this problem very well. For me, I thought I may not be able to change the world, but I can change this classroom. And so I set out on a mission to bring computers into this classroom, and I went from looking for 30 computers to bringing 400 computers to 20 schools across the country. And I also realized that there was a disconnect between having access to technology and having the skills to make meaningful use of that technology in front of them. And so I started researching what does it mean to be digitally literate, and realized there was no global definition of what it means to be digitally literate. So I started researching. I'm working on my PhD now. I'm in the final stage. I'm preparing to defend my thesis in the coming months. So I've already completed my research. It's on the digital inclusion of underserved communities, and specifically indigenous communities. So people in the United States who lack access to the internet and live in indigenous tribes. So live on Native American reservations, which is a big problem in the US. But I connected that work to kind of thinking about, what if there was a global standard for digital literacy, you know? And I came up with this idea of approaching the IEEE.
I have a question.
And saying to the IEEE, hey, what if we had this global standard? I'm pleased to announce that this week, there is now the first global standard for what it means to be digitally literate.
I have a question.
And it was my idea. So this is how I think I used my worst nightmare to fuel my superpower. And how do these two things connect? They connect because I realized that for me, access to my children and the ability to be a mother came from the internet, came from digital skills. If my kids didn't have access to a device, access to the internet, and access to digital skills, then they wouldn't have connection to their mom. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has, you know, such a deep connection to technology that it enables them to, you know, to be a mom, you know. My motherhood for me is very different than motherhood for most women. we work with the things that are put in front of us, the roadblocks that are put in front of us. But I thought, I'm not going to be that person who feels, sad or is disparaged about, this bad thing happened to me. Oh, my kids were kidnapped. Now the rest of the world is going to go. No, I decided, how do I use this to fuel something bigger than me? Because when I was working on this project, to get the computers and thinking about digital skills, it gave me new life. And it gave me the ability to concentrate on something else. Same thing with my PhD work. And by the way, I'm doing it online. I don't have time to show up in a university, so I'm doing it online, and I've created my own mentors, which is pretty cool. So I do things very untraditional. And that's, mainly because I believe that rules are someone else's. So you can, when you Google me, this is probably some of the things that you saw. So you saw, videos from Microsoft. And could you mute your phones, please, if that's okay? I hear someone who has it muted, and it's a little distracting.
Excuse me, I have a question. Can you, hello?
I'm just going to go through and mute people, so give me 1 second if I can. Okay, that should be good now. Thank you. All right, cool. So if you Googled me, this is some of the stuff that you found, So, you don't really see the whole, wow, Melissa's kids were kidnapped, Maybe if you open up a few of these, you'll see my story. If you watch this Code the Curve video that Microsoft made about me in July, I talk about it. So again, know your audience, who you're talking to, who you're talking with. I work with heads of state, I work with ministers, UN officials, but I also work with students, and I work with out of school youth. I work with a lot of different people. I adjust my message and my style. However, my lens is always the same. I'm authentic, I'm transparent, I'm approachable. I tell emotionally relevant stories. So the story I told you, very emotional, right? It makes me vulnerable. Now I've told it enough that I'm not going to cry, and my voice is not shaky because, I've gotten over it. But, it's really important for us to, think about how do we bring the fluffier side of life into everything. And Muhammad asks, why a software engineer should learn branding. You need to understand your audience. If you are going to go out and build something, you need to understand your audience and what they want, like, think, feel. And ultimately, most of the jobs lately that I've gotten, they came to me because of my personal brand. I have people come who will approach me. Hey, Melissa, I saw you do this webcast thing. I was asked to do a webcast. I'm wondering, can I hire you to help me figure out how to do this? And I realized, I know how to do that. And this just happened to me this week. I didn't realize that was something that someone would pay me to do. A friend of mine said, hey, I got this job where I'm going to be doing this, 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 and this. This is a part that I don't know how to do. Can you help me? And by the way, I'll pay you. I'm like, okay, all right, this is good. And it came from my personal brand. So Ashar says, how did you manage your studies while doing this wonderful experience in different companies and brands? What is the best thing that makes you different than before? So I think for me, I've always been someone who enjoys working on a lot of things at the same time. That's just how I am. And not everybody's like that. Not everybody is like, oh, I'm working on this and this and this and this. Also, I don't have my kids here, so I can work a lot more. I can do a lot more because I don't have the extra, let's say, things that have to be done to take kids to school or make sure kids are learning, cook dinner. If I cook dinner, I'm cooking for myself. And, of course, that's, being, living alone is not always, the most wonderful thing you know, I have a lot of friends. I spend a lot of time, you know, with, you know, my family and my friends and studying and doing. But, you know, for me, I get my energy from staying busy. And so that's why I study, I work, I'm an entrepreneur, you know. I'm going to read a text from, this came from the cultural attaché of the US Embassy in Tunisia. We were interviewing high school girls for our Tech Women Exchange program today. And when I asked one who she thought the most inspirational woman in tech in the world is, she said you. And then my response is in blue, oh my God, I might cry. It's not the first time your name has come up in interviews as a favorite woman leader. I also asked the question about women role models for a young women's leadership program we interviewed for a few months ago. You've made such an impact on lives of young Tunisians. I read this because Tunisia is where my ex-husband is from. You know, this is the person who kidnapped my children. And instead of looking at it and hating this country and hating the people and hating everything that came from there, I could have taken that path, right? But I thought, no, what can I do to empower people with opportunities and skills? What can I do to empower my children and the people who are growing up in their community to show that you can have something bad happen to you and you can overcome that and you can build things around it? You know, I didn't want to be known for the person who got her kids kidnapped. I wanted to be known for this. So you can see on the far left, there's the guy with the mask. He's actually the prime minister of a small island country off of Africa called Cape Verde. And this is him talking about one of my events. You know, IBM has done a lot of posting about my activities to their 8 million people. The UN called me IBM's chief penguin. So again, be there and be consistent. Always show up. I did 52 events in 10 countries last year. You know, I usually impact about 20,000 people every single year with digital inclusion, entrepreneurship, startups, youth empowerment, gender inclusion, and I always bring my personal side. Now, I didn't build my personal website yet, but there you go. This is a collection of my favorite, you know, a bunch of my favorite experiences this year. You know, again, figure out who your industry peers are, you know, make meaningful, lasting connections with them, set goals. You know, I always follow up, and I really find a common ground between us of learning, advocating, sponsoring, mentoring, and doing reverse mentoring. So I have a lot of young people who actually mentor me. Build unique and special relationships. So think about, what is that emotional connection that brings you to that person? There we go. I muted that person too. You know, so think about empathy, you know, think about the stories that you can tell. How do you find common ground with others? How do you inspire others to shine? And how do you share your thoughts openly? So again, you can find me on Twitter at Mentor Africa with a K. What did you think about this this session? Good? Insightful? Did you learn something?
Yes, ma'am. That's really nice.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, give me 1 second because I got some. What questions do you have while I'm working on my sharing? Good? Good stuff? Okay, I've got something else that I want to share with you really quickly. I'm going to go through this one rather fast. I wanted to spend more time on that one. This one's pretty simple, so forgive me for going through this really fast, but I want to go through it. Okay, on the screen, can you see, is it in full screen mode or no? Can you see 2 slides or 1 slide, if you don't mind telling me?
We can see one slide,
One
ma'am.
slide.
Sorry, there's just one?
Yeah, just one.
Yes.
Ah, good. Okay. All right, cool. I've got 2 monitors, so sometimes it doesn't come through right. Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. I'm going to go through this fast because I want to make sure that you've got a good understanding of this. I got this from my friend Donna. She wrote a book on imposter syndrome, and I just love her to bits. So think about this. You know, was there a huge mistake? Did you get to where you are by accident? Does that ever go through your mind? I know it goes through mine sometimes. You know, just remember you're not succeeding by accident. My mentor, Susan, and other successful mentors tell us, you know, feeling like this is normal. You know, actually, there are a lot of famous people who have imposter syndrome. So Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook, Howard Schultz from Starbucks, Seth Godin, who's a writer, and they're always afraid that somebody's going to call them a hack. Neil Armstrong, first guy to walk on the moon. He was at this Nobel Peace Prize, you know, party, and when he was there, he looked around. And he was like, "Wow, all these people made amazing things, and I just went to where I was told." You know, oh, my picture's gone. This is supposed to be Tom Hanks. I don't know what happened to the picture. So pretend like that little squiggle is Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks actually has imposter syndrome. So are you ready to admit? Is this you? Do you feel like an imposter? Do you feel that you're as good as the people around you? Or that good thing that happened to you, was it dumb luck? Were you in the right place at the right time? Well, I'm here to tell you that you deserve a seat at the table. I was recently called out for being an imposter. I did this presentation in Pakistan, and my friend helped me with the presentation and gave me some of the content, and the person on social media said, "You're an imposter, that's not your content." I'm like, "Yeah, duh, I got it from Donna, and Donna knows it, and Donna helped me with it." So she called me an imposter. Oh, it was kind of mood. So you're not faking it. I mean, maybe we were faking it in those glasses there, but you're not faking it. I am currently impostering my way through IBM. You know, what do I know about mainframes and, you know, data protection, privacy, and security? You know what? I'm learning. So now I can talk to you about, you know, IBM Z technology. I can tell you that, you know, a mainframe is secure, it's always on, and it's scalable, right? I can talk to you about that. Before I couldn't. So first thing, you know, that when you think about imposter syndrome is to think about, what are you unqualified to do? A lot of that's imaginary. A lot of that you really, you know, you're really qualified to do. You know, what will you lose out on if you don't do the thing, whatever that thing is? You know, so if you decide that, you know what, I'm not going to do this because I think I'm an imposter, will others be better off? Probably not. So really think about, you know, what are the parts that you're qualified to do, and what do you suck doing? What are you not good at doing? You know, I'm good at building startups. I'm good at empowering communities. I'm good at advocating for the underserved, and I'm good at evangelizing digital inclusion. Where am I bad? I am terrible at expense reports.
I can't understand. Can you make it simple?
I'm sorry?
I can't understand your words. Can you explain in simple words, please?
Okay. So, you know, I think part of this is, you know, what are you qualified to do, or what are you good at? You know, what do you know how to do? You know, what are your strengths? After that, you know, who are the people who are qualified, or who are the people who know how to do these things that you don't know how to do? Who can be your mentors? Who can help you? These are some of mine. Always start small, and I think this is the same for your personal branding, is start small. You know, you're not going to take a crash course in conquering the world. You know, think about when you reach out to someone for help, how do you reach out to them for help? Do it in a way where, you know, you show admiration for their work. You ask them a question and you ask your question. For those of you who ever are on social media, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, never, never, ever, ever reach out to someone and just say, hi, and then wait. Don't do that. Come in, hi, I have a question for you. Here is my question. Is this something you can help me with? Or do you mind helping me? Don't be that guy, that girl. Especially when you're reaching out to someone you don't know. So don't compare yourself against others. You know, different people have different, you know, experiences. Compliment them, elevate them. It's contagious and it feels good. Feels much better than feeling bad because you're not that person. Or, you know, I never look at it and think, wow, Donna's younger than me, but she has been more successful with her business and her career, and her personal brand is on fire. No, I'm not jealous. I admire it and I elevate her. Most importantly, be an and not an or. I talked to you about being an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur. Don't feel like you need to choose between being a storyteller and a software engineer. Why do you need to choose both? Why do you need to choose one over the other? Do both. Think about what advice you'd give a friend. Write that down and actually do that. How many times do people ask us, you know, for advice? We give them advice, and then when the same thing happens to us, we do exactly the opposite. Don't do that. Gather your squad, text them often. And this doesn't mean the haters. This doesn't mean the negative Nancys or the negative people in your life who are there to inspire you, to empower you, to help you be a better person. Sometimes you win. Yeah, you fail sometimes, but I don't call it failure if you learn. Write about it. What's something you failed at? And most importantly, do the thing, whatever that thing is. Again, Donna wrote a book about imposter syndrome, which I have here. I don't know if you can get it in Pakistan or not, but Donna's amazing, and you can find a lot of her material online, even her TED Talk where she talks about imposter syndrome. And again, you can find me on Twitter at Mentor Africa with a K. All right. What questions do we have? So how can we start? How can we do a startup with just an idea? Ooh, well, you need to build a business plan. I would recommend going out and doing something called the Business Model Canvas. The Business Model Canvas is a really wonderful tool for helping you look at, you know, what's the problem you're solving? Who is your audience? How are you going to make money? What's your solution? But just, I would also do some reading about design thinking. The most successful ideas are built with audience, you know, ideas in mind. All right. All right. What questions do you have?
You said lots of things happen by accident. I'm sorry. I have a question, ma'am.
So my friends from Circle, I could go on and do another talk on startups, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of questions. Do you have some questions that you would like to ask?
Ma'am?
Yeah.
You said lots of things happen by accident, but can you please tell us what matters more, like hardworking or the luck? Because luck does matter. If someone is hardworking day and night, but he has bad luck, then he's not gonna successful people.
Can you repeat the question? It's there. You have a little bit of background noise, so I didn't hear it all the way.
Sorry for disturbance, ma'am. My question is, you said, ma'am, you said something happens by accident. Like you have one slide that is written on many of the things happen by accident. But someone having the bad luck and he's working hard day and night, how would he manage that? He's not going to be a successful person.
You know, I think everyone has their own. I think everyone has their own. You know, kind of threshold of, you know, work and personal. And what is right for, you know, one person is not always right for somebody else, you know? And it's very hard to say, if you don't do this, you won't be successful. I don't believe in those kinds of statements. Because, sorry?
Ma'am, I also don't believe these things, but I mean to say simply that luck does matter a lot.
Yeah, I think everybody has to find their own threshold and their own kind of what's right for them, you know? Like what's right for me may be very wrong for you. And what might be right for you might be very wrong for me. You know what I mean? So how can we make a brand stand out from the rest? I think that the way of making a brand stand out is by knowing your audience and talking to your audience. So that's really kind of thinking about design thinking. I have a presentation on design thinking, and I think it might be really interesting for all of you. So for my circle team, have you done any training sessions on design thinking yet?
Not yet, but we have one planned for 30th October.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna pull up like one slide. I just want to get it real quick, and I won't present it because I don't want to mess up the one that's coming. But there's one slide I want to pull up, and it's the design thinking process. So let me just grab it from my computer. I'm just looking for it now.
Yeah, please
And in
do
my
that.
mind,
It'd
this
be
is
great.
how you make your brand stand out. Oh, here it is. Okay, this is what I wanted to show. Okay, give me 1 second. And ultimately, you can't have enough information about design thinking. So let me just share my screen.
Excuse me.
Please
Yes.
do.
I want to ask. Hello. I want to ask, what is a design thinking approach? What should we approach?
So for design thinking, what's the question?
Yeah.
So
What should be approach for design thinking?
what should you use design thinking for?
In business, like tech.
Everywhere. You use it everywhere.
Everything.
Yeah, you use it everywhere. Let me just tell you, and I know you've got a session coming up on this, so I don't want to take away from that wonderful session that's going to come soon. But design thinking is all about empathy, and it's about understanding your customer and understanding others around you. And it starts off with empathizing with your audience. And this is really important in branding and product development, because if you don't listen to your customer, if you don't empathize with your customer and define your customer wants, needs, frustrations, and aspirations, you're not going to be able to uncover what that secret sauce is for your brand or your product. And it's really important to kind of ideate with your team and with your customers to really challenge your assumptions and come up with creative and innovative, ideas and solutions. And then it kind of leads into prototyping, which is about creating some small solution and then testing your solution. This is really important in product development, whether you're building a mobile application, building a website, building a business, building a marketing campaign. Talking to your audience and knowing your audience is essential in everything that you do. When it comes to business, it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. Oh, okay. So it looks like you'll have design thinking in a different planned workshop. So do you want me to, is it okay, my Circle Women colleagues, do you want me to go through the design thinking a little bit? I think it's relevant based on some of the conversations that are happening.
Please do.
Yeah, it's okay. It's going to be a different audience for that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, this is great then. Let me go to the beginning then. I didn't want to mess up anything that someone else was doing, so give me 1 second. This is one of my favorite presentations because it's so applicable everywhere. So business criteria for making an online brand or a small brand. Pay attention, Ashar. This is what it is. this is what it is. Or this is how you get there. I'm going to save some bandwidth, so I'm going to turn off my video for now, but I'm still here. All right, cool. So you already know me. So design thinking is really human-centered techniques that help us solve problems. And it's really a way of gaining, having the ability to, assign a kind of a systematic way of getting access to insights. And it teaches others, how we can learn from the world around us. So I mentioned to you that I spent a lot of time in Pakistan. And when I was in Pakistan, I did my best to try to understand, people around me. Now I don't understand everything, but I did my best, and I made a point of trying to understand. Design thinking is used everywhere in academia, companies. It's actually something you can use in your real life as well. It's about understanding your audience. It's about challenging your assumptions and observing and developing empathy. Because what you're trying to do is, if you're trying to solve a problem, we need to identify different strategies, different ways of thinking. We need to think about, our audience, their problems. That helps us to see different kinds of solutions so that we, can create products or solutions that really align to the audience wants and needs. Now, in order to really, utilize design thinking, we need to define what problem are we trying to solve? So for example, I have a platform at IBM and I want to build a better experience around it. So my problem is, so my problem statement is that, if I think about my design thinking hat, it's I want to build a better experience around Master the Mainframe. So this is a tool that's used in IBM, and I'm currently getting ready to kick off a design thinking workshop around it. I'm a big fan of doing brainstorming sessions. I think that it helps people get a lot of creative ideas out there, and new ideas that I think people might not have thought about previously. Gets people creative, because it's easier to tone down a really wild and crazy idea than to think up a new one. But ultimately you got to know the problem that you're trying to solve when you're going to go and deploy any kind of design thinking process. when I'm doing these brainstorming sessions, I usually, write stuff down. I might draw pictures. Ultimately, you want to share everything with the group, and it might be through sticky notes or a picture board or a whiteboard, and you can do some of this stuff online. There is a free tool that you can use. It's called, I'm going to get the website, and I'll put it in the chat. So give me 1 second. Oh no, I don't think that's it. Hold on. I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. It's a whiteboarding tool. It's really cool. So it's a great place to collaborate and is free. All right, let me go back to my presentation. There we go. So that's a cool one that I like to use for brainstorming. But when you're thinking about, building a team, building a company, make sure people look different than you or are different than you. It might be ages, experiences, genders, whether you're male or female, be inclusive. Think about people with different backgrounds and abilities. And again, just different ways of thinking and looking at the world. If you're thinking about doing a brainstorming session, just make sure you're nice. Sometimes people come up with ideas that you may not like. Be visual, encourage weird stuff. Start with the problem. Shoot for lots of ideas. Build from others. Don't forget to assign someone who's going to help you take notes. But ultimately, you want to make sure that you're being inclusive. Again, not everybody feels comfortable speaking out. So one of the questions is, does it matter to have good graphics or design on a brand page or website while advertising the brand? Of course. Okay, I think somebody keeps muting me, but can you hear me now? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. So, as you're kind of taking in feedback, incorporate the feedback, because it's going to be less costly to prevent a mistake or to correct a mistake than to fail miserably. Okay, fine, you might learn something out of it, but evaluate often so you don't fail. Design thinking is really for everyone, whether you're a designer, a freelancer, a founder, a developer. It's for anyone and everyone. Same thing with prototype. It's just like a little experiment. What is your product going to look like, right? We already talked about the process a second ago. This is one of the design thinking processes. There are many, depends on who you talk to. There are lots of them. But ultimately, it's about challenging the norm, thinking outside in, and thinking about things differently than you would normally think about them on your own. Be imaginative. Again, this goes back to storytelling. What are those outlandish, wild, weird, and different things that would break the norm? Liberate yourself from the same old, same old. What is it that you could do to change the norm? That's how great ideas come about, is through innovation. Well, we know that lots of people build cool stuff. Yeah, that's right. We know that smart people build cool stuff. That's right too. But do they talk to their audience? Like the people who would actually use the product? If they don't, that's a problem, right? Talking to your audience is essential. because we all want to make cool things. But what if we make a cool thing and nobody wants to use our cool thing? So innovation is really about people's desire to use something. They find it feasible and viable. That's innovation. So they can use it, they want to use it, and it works. So we already talked about what design thinking is. It really is just a systematic way for problem solving. And it helps you create new innovative ideas. It helps you tell stories. And all you need are people, space can be virtual, a process, and that leads you all to innovation. So what do we mean by design? Is it making pretty things? It's not making pretty things. It's solving a problem. It's identifying unmet needs. It's creating joy. And it's resolving audience pain points. In order to do that, you need to think about who's got the problem. Why do they have the problem? And how are others trying to solve that problem? You know, what are the components of that problem? What are you going to do to test, to learn, to iterate, to ask, and to listen so that you can find that golden door? You know, you want to know things like what worked, what didn't work. You know, adapt to what fits your audience needs. This is a different way of showing design thinking, but it's the same overall process. You're understanding, you're observing, you're defining, ideating, prototyping, and testing. So empathy is key throughout all of this. And there's a question, what is the best source of learning design thinking online? I'm going to give you the best source, and I'll give you the website for it as well. IBM is a whole free course, and it's free, and you get badges. So it's really good. So it's a constant loop of observing, reflecting, and making. Because ultimately you want to fail fast. You want to fail cheap. You want to fail better. But remember, if you learned, you really didn't fail. So if we think about the components that we had previously, you know, it's, and this goes, this is the same for any business. It's how do you build a good team? How do you identify your audience? You're not going to be able to tell great stories, build great products if you don't know who your audience is. If you don't know what if you don't have, you know, a plan, if you don't have a timeline, if you're not focused, if you haven't validated your assumptions with real people. And sometimes we need to shift. You know, you hear a lot of people talking about pivoting. But ultimately, again, you got to go out and do the thing. The only person that's stopping you from doing the thing is you. You want to share your ideas openly with no fear, you know. I know it's scary sometimes to share your ideas. But how can you do that with no fear? And how can you inspire others to share with no fear? Don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid if you started something, you launched something and it didn't work out, you can change. Create choices for yourself. You know, this kind of stuff will help you think big. You know, when you're going through and brainstorming and thinking about all the different ideas, think quantity first. A lot of ideas. You know, you can think about quality later. You know, you might get a lot of doors in front of you. And you might open one door and find there are a lot of other doors behind there until you get to that golden door. Your answer. But think big and narrow things down. You'll narrow them down over time. One important thing is when you're telling stories or you're building a product or running a business or creating a startup, you're probably not your audience. So don't forget that you're probably not your audience. Find your customers. Go talk to them. Talk to your friends. Talk to people who would use your products. Ask them what they think. Listen to them. Empathize with them. But ultimately talk to them. Talk with them. Document what you learned. When you had that conversation, what did he or she, or what did they say? What do they think? How did they feel? Take them down on sticky notes. Great stories come from just talking to others and learning their stories and learning from them. Make sense of what you wrote down. Did you have quotes? Are there actions that they're taking? Expectations, reactions? What are their values? Your values might be different than mine, and my values might be different than yours. The way you react to something might be different than the way I react to something. My expectations might be different than yours. I may not even understand your expectations. The things that I say might be very different than yours. So it's really important that we are always talking. As you're going through this and you're thinking about product testing, for example, or thinking about testing out your new startup, pain points are going to come about. Focus there. What can you do to resolve, pain points if you're thinking about building a product or a business, right? Identify one problem. Can you map out that person's life? How can you get focused? So if you remember previously, there are a bunch of sticky notes all over the place. What can you do to organize them? You can see here are the steps. Here's what they're doing. Here's what they're thinking. And here's what they're feeling. So imagine you built a mobile application and it's version 1 and you want to test it out. What are the steps that they're taking? Home screen, account setup, whatever those other pages might be. What are they doing there? What are they thinking? How are they feeling? Map out your customer journey. When we say pain points, what does that mean? Obviously things that are painful, things that are slow. Like imagine, the times where you've, been in a website and something didn't work the way you needed it to. It's frustrating, right? Or it's confusing. How many times have we learned a new platform and it's really hard and it is confusing and it's challenging, or sometimes when our internet's not working, slow, or we've been part of things that, oh, this is scary, or this makes me feel uncomfortable. How can you resolve those with whatever your product is? As you think about setting up those phases and what people are doing, what people are thinking, what people are feeling, how can you highlight some things to focus on? All right, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix this one first. Then I'm going to fix that one. I'm going to fix that one. And I'm going to fix that one. Goes into your roadmap. Ultimately, things will get more organized because you'll be able to clearly see the pain points, the opportunities, the inefficiencies, and the confusion. Again, this is really good for, trying to figure out product market fit. And that means when you're, creating a new startup or a new product and you want to test it out and see if it fits, this is a great way of figuring out, did it actually fit or not? Do people want your product? Can they use your product? all of that stuff's going to be translated into actionable needs, things that people need and things that you're going to fix. You know, ultimately, this is also coming to, you know, kind of bring up who needs what and why do they need it. So the question is it necessary for every brand or company to think about its competitor strategies to build their own business? Yes. You need to know your competitors, and you need to have a strategy for how you deal with each of those competitors. So yes, but don't forget that your competitors can often be your partners. You might see them as a competitor, but there might be a way to collaborate. I'm a big fan of creating journey maps and mapping out what what the customer journey might look like. You know, what are their steps along the way? What is their persona? Again, what are their wants, their needs? How are they using your product? Where are they going? Why are they going there? How does it make them feel? Because again, you don't want them to be frustrated. You want them to be happy, and you want to turn them into fans and advocates, right? Whatever you do, don't keep the ideas in your head. Collaborate with your team. You know, put them on this kind of mind mapping board. Organize them. Put them together so you can figure out and really know your customer. Know what your customer wants and needs. You know, your prototype may not be like this. Your prototype may be a piece of paper, or it may be a version 1 of an app. Yeah, see, your prototype might look like this. It's a bunch of stencils and colored paper. Yeah, mapping is like a graphic or drawing, and it's like the experience, the journey that they're going on, where you're drawing it. And it can happen, you know, on paper, or there are journey mapping tools that are for free that exist as well. But, you know, once you get your prototype together, you want to go take it for others to see it. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to share it with others. I know that's kind of scary when you're not ready. But join your audience on their journey. You know, be part of it so you can see what they're doing and what their frustrations and pain points are. You know, communicate with them. But also align with your team. You know, don't forget your audience is made up of real people with real problems and real pain points. You know, remember that these are people too. And imagine when you get frustrated with a product, or you want something to work right. You know, put yourself in their shoes as much as you can. Empathize with them. One of you asked where you can get badges, or where you can learn about design thinking. I'm going to put this in the chat window. I'm just going to make sure that I put it in right. I'm going to make sure it works. Give me 1 second. All right. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, it works. Yes.
Ma'am, can you tell me about that? How design thinking can help us in software development?
How it can help you in software development?
Yes, ma'am.
It will help you understand your customers, so that when you are building a solution, don't be an order taker. Don't be the person who is just taking orders from a business leader who's telling you what to build. Understand why you're building what you're building. If you understand why you're building what you're building, it will help you be a better developer. Because ultimately your job as a software developer is to build stuff, right? So if you understand what you're building, why you're building it, what pain points you're solving, it might help you it might help you kind of think about the journey through your solution better. You know, if you're, and I don't know if you're a app developer or website developer, or you're doing things with e-commerce, it doesn't matter, or an enterprise developer. You know, in order to build anything, it's just kind of like, you know, let's say as a builder, you know, meaning like a construction worker. If the construction worker doesn't understand why he's building what he's building and what the vision of what's being built is, he's not going to do, or she's not going to do as good of a job building, because he or she might miss things as they're making decisions that might sit outside of the drawings, or might sit outside of, you know, what they got from the architect. Because a lot of times we need to make decisions about how things are done or how people get from point A to point B. But if we understand how our customers are going to use the product and what are their aspirations and what do they want and what do they need, we're going to be better software developers. Does that make sense?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So,
Ma'am, I have also a question.
yeah.
Ma'am, you said approach your audience, but we all know the technology in Pakistan is not that much good as in US or any European country. How would we approach our audience? Our audience do not know anything about technology. The concept here is to be an engineer or a doctor. The technology is not that much advanced here. So how would we approach anything else? What would do?
So, you know, one of the things, you could approach them in different ways, and there may be, you know, it may not be about asking them what they want, but asking them, you know, different, you know, showing them examples of, hey, if you were able to do this, 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 and this, how would this help you? You know, because
Ma'am,
sometimes if you ask people,
that's not that
yeah.
that's not going to help me, but I'm saying there are a little bit of software houses in Pakistan. How can we do for them? What can we do to expand these? What do your audience mean? What's the audience here mean?
So I think ultimately when you're talking about, you know, and I guess it also depends upon what your, you know, who your market is. So are you thinking of building something? Is there something that specific that you're thinking of building?
Okay.
You know, I would think about, you know, is there something specific you want to build and do? That way you have a real example, you know, and there, you know, even if there are people in the country who are not technologically savvy, there are a lot of people in Pakistan who are actually technologically savvy. There is a thriving developer, you know, community in, you know, in Pakistan. Now, not everybody, you know, is literate. Not everybody is in school. You know, you have a huge divide between people who have and people who don't have. You know this more than me. You know, obviously, if you're trying to sell, you know, some kind of e-commerce solution and you're asking people who don't have jobs and don't have money, you know, maybe that's not your right target audience. Think about who you would be trying to sell to. Those are the kinds of people you want to talk to. But also remember that sometimes your customers don't know what they want and what they need because they've never experienced. Like if I came to you years ago and I said, you know, what if I'm going to launch an app that helps you go and rent out somebody else's house for the weekend? You might think like, that's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. Like nobody's going to rent out their house to a stranger, right?
Ma'am, are yes, ma'am. Ma'am, are certification necessary keeping the bachelor's degree aside?
Can you repeat the question?
Ma'am, are certifications necessary keeping the bachelor's degree aside?
You know, I'm a big fan of certifications. And, you know, I know that a lot of companies look at certifications, especially when you're in technology. So I think for people in technical roles, I think having cloud computing certifications are important. I think design thinking is important because it shows that you understand how to talk to, that you know how to understand and empathize. But I also think it's very important for you to have practical experience and, to create and make and do things on your own and experiment. This is one of the challenges that I often see with young people in Pakistan is, there are a lot of people who volunteer, but I think because of many of the educational systems around the world being very theoretical in nature, don't get caught up in only getting certifications and only getting a university degree. Think about what you can do to gain practical experience while you're in college, while you're in university, while you're, and even if you're not, continuing to sharpen your skills beyond your job. And that could be volunteering with a startup, that could be creating your own thing, that could also be, working with a nonprofit. These kinds of experiences are incredibly valuable, and they show you how you can actually, practice your skills and write about that stuff that you're doing. When I talked about having a personal brand and having a website, demonstrate what you've created and built. If you're a technologist, build your own website so you can show what you've done. Build a few websites for some friends. Build a mobile application for something in your life, or start out with like Power Apps or something that is like a low code, no code model, so you can highlight real practical things.
Ma'am, do you have any YouTube channel or Instagram or something like that?
What's that?
Do you have any YouTube channel or Instagram or something like that?
I don't have YouTube. I've been thinking about it. I just haven't had time to do it. I'm most active on Twitter and LinkedIn. I also have Facebook, but my Facebook has become a bit wild. There's just way too much going on there. And I do have Instagram. My Instagram is really more for me personally, like just sharing pictures of my dog and me and my friends and stuff like that, because I use Instagram differently. I don't use it for like professional stuff. Sometimes I'll post like some of the talks I do and that sort of thing, but I'll put my Instagram in here. I think that's it. Let me just make sure that that's it. And it's funny that I forgot it. Yeah, that's the right one. I couldn't remember if there was an I at the end of it, but that's my my Instagram. And then again, this is my Twitter. I have a Facebook group that I kind of use for like announcing like technical training and stuff like that. As the student experience leader within my division, I do a lot of training on enterprise computing skills that empower people to go into enterprise computing jobs. That platform is something that I'm looking forward to kind of redesigning, doing some different things with, and kind of re-looking at it. I started on rewriting some of the copy actually yesterday. And one of the things that I said was, I'm going to rewrite this copy. I'm going to post it, but, I need to talk to some of the audience to see if this resonates, and I will. Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am, I have a question. Ma'am, there are some persons who can't express themselves in front of people. I'm an introvert person. So a person who is an introvert and can't express himself, how can he become a brand or change his attitude? What should be his priorities and what should be his goals?
So I'll ask you, do you feel more comfortable writing as opposed to speaking in front of others? Because it's very possible to build your brand through writing. and through being out there through written word. Is that something that you feel comfortable with personally, or what do you think about that?
I am not that type of introvert. I'm introvert of type. I don't have friends, many friends.
Okay.
So I can express myself. I mean, I am trying to do freelancing and many
Yeah.
other. I am trying to learn skills to build myself and continue my studies at university. So what should be my priorities? I mean, I don't have many friends and I don't have a lot of connections. I'm trying to build myself. I'm trying to prioritize my choices.
I think this is a great way of starting to network is through coming to stuff like this. So after this, I would tell you, you know, come out and follow me on Twitter. See what you can do to build your network in unique ways. Show up to meetups, ask questions. And, one of the things you can also do is, if you have certain strengths, like what are your strengths? What are you good at? Are you a developer, or what are you good at?
Yes, I'm sort of developer. I mean, I have learned web development. I have learned HTML, CS, and I'm trying to learn PHP and JavaScript, etc. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to go on a browser and search everything which I want, but I am sort of a developer, web developer.
So, one of the things that you could do is just to start to build up your network and your experience is, is there a nonprofit that you could help? That, is there a nonprofit that you could help to build something for them, to help them with their operations, and say, you know what, I'm looking to network more. I'm looking to build my resume more. I'm looking to build my skills more. I'd like to volunteer for the next 3 months. Here's how much time I have. Can I build something for you? I've done that many times. I did that for 5 years before I transitioned my career into what it is today, because I was in a different career and I wanted to change my career, but I didn't have all the skills that I needed, the practical skills. And so I did it through volunteerism, by volunteering to take on new projects, to demonstrate that I had the skills and I had the ability to take on the kinds of work that I wanted to do. I was working in marketing and supply chain. That was my job. And I didn't like what I was doing. I thought it was boring. And so I wanted to go into something that was more socially responsible. I wanted to do something with youth and education and entrepreneurship. And I was applying for jobs and nobody wanted to give me a chance. Nobody cared about my experience and nobody wanted to interview me.
Yes, that's the basic problem, ma'am. I am trying to do freelancing and try to contact many people, and I did got a chance. There was a guy from America, United States, and he tried to reach me, but it didn't happen quite frankly, and he said that he cannot give me money. He will pay me directly, or he cannot use online banking system. That was my problems. I tried to contact a freelancer and said, if you don't have a skill, then I cannot hire you. And I tried to contact him again, and he said, no, I do not have job. Even he had a lot of jobs. So according to you, I think my priority should be to enhance my skills and then step into these type of freelance marketings, or if this business.
Yeah,
right?
start to write and talk about and demonstrate the skills that you're learning. Write about your journey. Create your own website where you talk about your skills. You know what I mean? And you demonstrate that you've got these skills, so let's say you do a project, do a write-up about that project each time you finish a project, even if it's something that you're doing for fun, don't just take on paid responsibilities. Take on volunteer responsibilities as well when you have free time. Those are really good ways of practically demonstrating your experience. And it's also a way of building your resume so that when people want to know what skills you have, you can show them.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions? And is this helpful? Ask me anything. Maybe you want to meet my dog. I know. I'm going to show you my dog. Hold on. Frida, come. This is my dog Frida.
Hi, this is so cute. He's so cute.
Isn't she cute? She has
Yeah.
she has a little disco scarf. See it?
Okay, ma'am, I have a question. Please, if you have time, then can you answer me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes we have, great ideas in our head and, sort of very big ideas, and we want to obviously implement that. But sometimes the surroundings makes us, less believe in that particular idea, that we think that we can't make it. So should we change our idea? Or should we continue doing it, because maybe that we are seeing ourselves or perceiving ourselves somewhere in our life, or at some sort of stage, so we should hold on it. So
I think that we always need to surround ourselves around people who believe in us and people who will help us believe in ourselves, so that when we get scared about whether we should execute an idea or not, or implement an idea or create a business, surround yourself around people who have made businesses, who have created things, and who have done things, risky things that are different, and find people who will help to fuel you, not scare you. And I know when you have a lot of aunties who are talking and they have this to say and that to say, and you should be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that, a lot of people, and have, especially family, the community, everybody has something to say. Think about who you should share your ideas with, and share them with the right people.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much. Because whenever we start thinking even of about our many, more decisions of life, so we do talk about it to, particular people, and most of the time they do scare us instead of,
So don't talk to those people. They don't need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, they really don't know.
Come up with like another narrative. I mean, I'm not saying you should lie to them, but I'm saying come up with another narrative. There are certain people who I don't tell about all my startup stuff, because they're like, oh, you're doing too much. Yeah. Or so sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I got, I'm still working on some of my startup stuff, but luckily I've got a great team. They're doing a lot of that stuff, and I talk about it differently. I'm not lying, but I talk about it differently with certain people. When I talk with people who are negative, there are many things that I don't share with them, because I know they're negative and they're just going to bring me down. So be able to recognize the people who bring you down and take care of how much you share with them and when you share with them.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really helpful for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, we are the only ones who are stopping ourselves from being the person we want to be. And sometimes the best ideas are the ideas that no one understands but you.
Yeah. So we ourselves, they can't see. So yeah, I understood that. I really do.
Yeah, it's scary too. Like when you think like, wait, is this really a good idea, or do I suck and I'm an idiot?
Yeah. So then, the family does that, and it is obviously very hurtful, and at the same time, like stops you chasing your dreams. But I think we should even not discuss with them, because they don't see what we see.
That's exactly right. I mean, and I'm not saying you should lie to the family, but find what it is that you can tell them without telling them everything. Because we always have people in our family who are just negative. They're just negative. They just have negative things to say. And no matter what's going on, unless you're a doctor or an engineer, unless you're a doctor or, a pharmacist or whatever, like, nothing will be good.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly, man.
Because I belong to that, family who mostly are connected with medical line and everything. So they also try to implement their ideas and decisions on me, but I always try to chase my dreams. And now maybe that I'll make it happen and make them proud, and they will obviously one day will be saying that yes, you did it, and I'm proud of
But
you.
most importantly, make yourself proud, because if you live your life trying to make other people proud, you're always going to fail. The reason being is you can't control who's going to be proud or who's going to not be proud. And sometimes people, even when you do something amazing, then they're jealous. Like, I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. My mom,
Yeah.
I will tell her about ideas. You know, I try not to tell her about all the things that I'm working on. Like, she'll ask me like, oh, what big thing did you do today? You know, or what big thing did you accomplish this month?
Yeah.
And it's the same narrative every time we talk. And here's how it goes. What's the big thing you did this month? Oh, I did a hackathon with the United Nations, and I got written up in Forbes. My project was in Forbes.
Yeah.
And it was on the, you know, the cover of UN News, and the UN Secretary General, or UNESCO Secretary General, wrote about my project, and my quote was next to hers. You know what my mom said?
What?
She didn't say, "Oh, congratulations, that's amazing." She goes, "Gosh, I've always been so dumb."
Oh.
Instead of congratulating me, she compared herself with me and called herself stupid and called herself dumb. And so it was more like, sympathize with me because I'm not as smart as you. And so I really, you know, I've gotten to know her over time, that this is just how she is. This is just what she does. And, you know, she's still my mom, but it makes me not want to tell her about the good things, because the narrative always goes like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Another example.
Yeah.
My sister.
Yeah.
I got a promotion at Microsoft when I was working at Microsoft before IBM. And my sister goes, "Wow, I didn't even know you knew anything about computers."
Oh.
What? And I was like, "Yeah, hi, I guess I don't."
Yeah.
And so I don't tell them a lot of stuff, because I know that, like, they just don't have the right attitude, and it's sad and it sucks, and you want everybody to be like a cheerleader for you. Find your squad. Sometimes your squad is not your family.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to find, people who are positive and who can put something into our dreams, not to scare us or put us down. So I think I'll obviously I am gonna follow your whatever you said, and I really loved it. And inshallah ta'ala, that someday I'm gonna make me proud, and I'm gonna do.
Inshallah. Well, just think about the little things that you can do to make yourself proud, you know? And I find that, when we expect others to feel a certain way,
Yeah.
our expectations are always wrong.
Yeah.
And we have more control over how we feel,
Yeah.
So aim to make yourself proud, and aim to hit your own goals, and find people who believe in you, who are positive, and who inspire you, who empower you, because and be empowered yourself, because empowered women, or empowered people, empowered men, empower others.
Yeah. Yeah. And most of the time, I think we should find those people who stand with us and who stand with our decisions or opinions. Maybe that they also see ourselves, they also see us as we do. But I think, first of all, we shouldn't go for them, and we should make it, ourselves, and by ourselves and everything. So I always do that, and I don't go for people and don't, go and ask them, what should I do? And I failed, so I am depressed and everything. So I make myself so I empower myself. So I think this is what I do, and that's what I have learned from you now. So inshallah ta'ala, someday I'm really gonna make me proud. And thank you very, very much. Thank you so much.
All right, I have time for one more question, unless my friends from Circle have some closing words that they would like to share.
Yeah, okay.
Any last questions? I was looking for Frida. I don't know where my dog went. She's gone. She must have left the other room. She got shy, maybe seeing all of you on the camera. All right, cool. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come into your lives. Thank you for coming into my life. You had asked really, really thoughtful questions about, design thinking and why does it matter? You asked, questions about, do certifications and badges matter? And, how do I get my confidence to build and create and do new things that other people might think are crazy? Frida came back. Oh, here we go. Here, Frida wants to say goodbye to you. Come on, Frida. Okay, Frida wanted to say goodbye. So thank you for having us today. Frida
Bye.
enjoyed.
So adorable.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, good. Anything else that you wanted to say, Circle Women, in closing?
I want to say thank you for arranging this type of webinars.
All right, so I'm just gonna conclude the session here, and thank you so much, Mellisa, for taking out time for us, and for such an insightful and wonderful workshop. I think we have a couple of questions left.
Oh yeah, no worries, no worries. I'm happy to.
I want to say how we get the video lecture.
Oh,
you'll get the video. You'll get the video at the end.
Links available. What flavor? Chocolate ke pizza?
Okay, cool. So she'll share the video. Any other questions before we go?
Hi, Mellisa. I want to ask a question.
Yeah, sure.
I want to ask that most of the time we have so many ideas in our brain and the day just pass by thinking about them. How can we focus on one idea that this is the best and we should start working on them?
I struggle with that. And I end up working on a lot of ideas at the same time until one just pops. And whenever that one pops, then I work on that idea. And sometimes another one just pops. Don't feel like you need to choose between ideas until one pops for you.
Okay, so we have to work on them, all of them.
You have to prioritize. I can't tell you how to prioritize the ideas in your head. You have to find a way of prioritizing them. You have to think about your goals. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to do? And how do those things help you achieve what you're trying to achieve? Do they help you or do they get in the way? Or are they just noise?
Okay, I got your point. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everyone. I am going to sign off. Have an absolutely wonderful Saturday. Frida and I are gonna go for a walk, and I hope you have a wonderful Saturday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.